Man's back. Ooh, the scenic shot of Glasgow. Immigration enforcement outside your house about to deport you from German, yeah?
It's kind of what it looks like.
Pretty Patel sneaking up with a little net to catch you. I'll be careful about that. She'll find you. She will.
She'll hunt you down.
She'll send you back to where you came from.
South London.
Yeah, exactly. Deport you back to London. But I think that defeats the purpose of what you were aiming for, Preeti. But all right.
Well, welcome back to the PC report. This is going to be our little roundup of the Scottish elections, which took place just over a week ago. We're a little bit late, but life gets in the way. But we're just going to go through the results, kind of what our immediate reactions are, kind of what we think the future will hold given these elections, and yeah, just kind of our analysis on just things as they came in. So, Mark, how did you find it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, week late. That's quite consistent for us. I think we're usually. It's about time for that semi-monthly video where we talk about something that happened a long time ago that no one can remember about. So that's exactly. We're nothing if not consistent. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't think there were a huge number of surprises in the election. I think that's my main takeaway. Is it pretty much played out how we all thought it would. I think it wasn't the stunner that was Boris Johnson getting that 80-seat majority in the UK elections in 2019. I think everyone pretty much expected the SNP to dominate. Likely to be a coalition with the Greens. That's what's like now. That's what's going to happen. And Conservative vote stayed steady. Labour dropped back a bit, and the Lib Dems continue to toil around in complete. I mean, whatever it is the Lib Dems do these days, I don't even know. But yeah, overall, I found it. It wasn't shocking what we saw. I think it was very much everyone knew what was coming, and then it happened. So that every now and then polls are right, and this time polls were right, and they were pretty accurate actually. They were sort of predicting the seat shares. They got them pretty much spot on. So yeah. Good, well done for the pollsters for once, because they've been shanking it. They've been absolutely shanking it recently.
I kind of think that's an interesting theme actually to pick up on, because it was really kind of just a cementing of kind of what we all kind of thought was going to happen anyway. And it was just kind of, and yeah, like you said, it had a lot less. I mean, because elections were going across the UK at the time, it was kind of I don't want to say the most boring one, but like compared to what was going on in Hartlepool or what was going on in Wales and all that. Yeah, it was just a bit anticlimactic almost, but like we all kind of assumed that it was going to be a result kind of like this. One seat off an overall majority for the SNP, very, very close. But I'm kind of glad that the Greens then are going to most likely going to go into a coalition with them. They're able to do in the last Scottish Parliament. What the Greens were able to push into those budgets, especially. I think it brings value and actually kind of makes the SNP almost look better on certain climate things as well. And kind of, I think that both parties benefit each other in. If that makes sense.
Definitely, I'm currently obviously an SNP member, but my natural home is with the Greens. I think that's where historically I've been, and that's I have a lot of love for the Scottish Greens. They got my list vote this time round. If they were in a position to get my constituency vote, I'd strongly consider it. I like the SNP. I like their policies. That's why I'm a member. But I think they're kept honest by the Greens and have been in the last Parliament, like you say, especially on green issues, but also a range of social welfare issues and other stuff too. And I think I like coalitions. Most of Europe does coalitions, and the fact that the UK doesn't, obviously UK level doesn't, I don't think is healthy. I think you need multiple people with different viewpoints in the room when you're running a country. Otherwise, you're just talking to yourself, and shit policy gets created, as far as I'm concerned. And we're seeing that now with obviously the Conservative Party, with absolutely no holds barred on it at the UK level, just doing the most awful shite you've ever seen in your life. So, it was the outcome I wanted. I think people are upset the SNP didn't get an outright majority. I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. They absolutely dominated, and the Greens did fantastic too. And it's going to be a coalition. I think it's going to be a very successful coalition. Other things that maybe need to be improved on, sure.
Well, that's politics.
Any party need, yeah, that's politics, isn't it? I like coalitions because it forces people to actually compromise and work with each other, and I think that's a good outcome.
No, definitely. I think, I think first thing on our agenda is just analysing the scale of the vote that the SNP actually really got. If we put it onto UK,
we'll dive into the numbers now. But just before that, I just want to point something out, which sort of crossed my mind on when the results were trickling out, and it's why I fundamentally think that the UK cannot survive contact with reality anymore. Scotland voted for 75% of Scotland voted for left-wing or centre-left parties. Then you put that in comparison
with the UK,
what's happening on the UK level. That cannot be sustained. You've got two countries going in completely different directions, and obviously the results in Wales were, if you're of the left, were very positive. Welsh Labour did very well, despite the fact that Keir Starmer seems to be trying to blow his own foot off no matter what he does. Welsh Labour did very well. Plaid stayed about even, which was interesting. They managed to hold off Plaid, which is obviously a fantastic result for Labour. But what you're seeing is England shifting one way, Scotland very much shifting in another way. I think there's fundamental rifts developing in the UK in terms of what populations value and what they want out of a country, and what they think is important. And I don't know how you now end up in a situation where you can bring that all back together.
No, exactly. And I think that's a really important point, because if we look at the council elections and things like that, we're seeing like Hartlepool, but also wasn't it the Tees Valley there as well, and all these because what was it, 200 maybe 250 seats gained by the Conservatives on local level. So not only did they win nationally in the 2019 general election, but they're consolidating that with the kind of boots on the ground councils and everything. So that just emphasises how especially England and Scotland are almost diametrically opposed, going further apart. And then how do you do that? That's why I always thought during the election campaign, when Anas Sarwar was like, well, we're just going to ignore, we'll just come together with.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
And then it's like, but what unites us then?
Yeah.
Tell me, because what I'm seeing is the Welsh thing, the Welsh example, I think is pretty good. The Conservatives gained seats there, but that was mainly through UKIP's collapse.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got to take that into account.
The surprising number of UKIP votes went back to Labour, which I found interesting as well. It wasn't like they all went to the Conservatives, which is what you saw with the Brexit Party, like in Hartlepool. The Brexit vote basically just went Tory. Whereas in Wales, the UKIP vote, which was about 12%, I think Labour got about 4% of that vote. So it wasn't an unsubstantial amount at the end of the day, which is interesting.
Definitely. But I think that's a really interesting theme, that how do we heal these not wounds, but kind of things that keep us apart.
These fundamental separations,
differences in values.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're getting further and further apart.
Exactly. And you can think what you want about independence, and obviously as that becomes more of an issue, that will need to be debated, and both sides can lay out their argument. But I don't think, the way I look at it, I view the UK breaking up as gravity, essentially. I don't see how you can keep its composite pieces together given the direction of travel.
Yeah,
there's obviously all sorts of detail and nuance and debate and about what independence would entail, same as if Northern Ireland were to reunify with the Republic, all these sorts of things. There's detail there, but fundamentally, in terms of glaciers slowly moving into certain directions,
exactly,
it's going this way. It's not coming back.
And like you said, like kind of glaciers, it's kind of irreversible. Once that is gone, it's gone, and
You know,
it's left its mark on the world around it. No, definitely.
and the way I look at it as well is demographics to a certain degree. You know, the under 30s support independence at a clip of 80%.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. Yeah,
You know, and you can say, well, you know, it might not happen in 5 years. Yeah, it might not. It might. It may. I think it's about 50-50 for 5 years. 10 years, I think it's about 90% now. I think over the next decade, it's a virtual certainty in one form or another.
Definitely, because that demographic change. No,
it's just demographics. It's demographics, you know, and it's the young population wanting to go in a different direction, and
exactly. And this is a point that Mark Blythe brought up in one of his podcasts that we both listened.
Oh yeah.
Where he talks about, and he was originally kind of a unionist position, and just come around to it being like you said, it's just math. It's just the numbers. You know, it is an inevitability. You know.
And I understand that deeply upsets some people. You know, and that's fine. You know, maybe 50% of the population currently. I don't know, and that obviously upsets people in England too. People were very upset when Ireland went independent almost 100 years ago now. You know, or was it over 100 years ago? You know,
I think 1922.
1922. So coming up. No, but you know, this is the thing. I mean, fundamentally, countries have the right to choose their own destiny. We saw that with the UK as a whole leaving the EU. And, you know, fair enough. You know, I didn't agree with it, but it happened. Fine. Had the EU turned around and said, no, you're not allowed to leave, can you imagine? Yeah. So fundamentally, Scotland, under international law, has the right to choose its own destiny. It's a union of consent. There's no actual reason it can't leave. And what you're seeing now is you're seeing Westminster angling into a position where it will shift, if they're not careful, from a union of consent to, well, actually, no, you're a colony. And at that point, you've completely lost the argument. And if that's the position they end up taking, I could see independence shooting up to 60-65% within a year or two, just because as soon as you tell people you're no longer doing this of your own consent, people lose faith in you and go, well, fuck, screw you then. No, then I'm out. You know, I think the reason it's still 50-50 is because there's no, we're choosing to do this. Whereas if suddenly you're being told, no, you've got no choice, suddenly a certain amount of people go, well, then fuck it, I'm not playing this game.
And I think that was an important thing in the election campaign when, especially conservative, members of MSPs and such were interviewed, where they were asked kind of what would the democratic route to independence be, and they couldn't
answer it.
They couldn't answer the question because they fundamentally don't believe that there is. And then as soon as you deny democracy, that's when that relationship of consent starts to become an abusive relationship. If we extend that metaphor a little bit.
Yeah. And we could talk about this all day. I think we've got an agenda to get through now, but just to summarise, Govt was on the news the other day being asked, right, is it a union of consent? Of course. Are Scotland allowed to leave? Of course. Can they hold a referendum? No, he said. So it's like, well, so you've said yes and no. So that's the Tory position in a nutshell on most things.